Alright everyone, this is Beanian again. Now I've decided to take a bit more of a lighthearted approach to my rant and talk about a very fun game called Blazblue. Kind of an obscure title, it's from the same people that made Guilty Gear, but it's really fun. Really good 2D fighting, the combo system's pretty easy to get into, and there's only 12 characters, and I'm going to try and go over each of them. So the story is basically about people in this futuristic society with magic called an Armagus or a Nox Nectaurus weapon. The one Ragna, the guy right there has is called the Azure Grimoire, which allows him to use dark power. He basically is using it to overthrow a corrupt government that's hoarding this power for themselves. And that's a pretty cool looking little thing that he's got going. Anyway, he basically catches hell from everyone in the series, including a very pretentious little royal vampire named Rachel Alucard, who basically is a very annoying, manipulative combo master. She's pretty rude and has a bit of a smart mouth to everyone, but she seems to be kind of interested in Ragna. It's a little iffy. But basically, the 12 characters each have their own very strong abilities. They have their own combos and special moves and distortion drives. And other than 3 people, they all have a move called an Astral Heat that you can unlock. It's kind of abysmal to use it because it has to be the last round, and opponent has to have 20% of his life, and you have to use all of your energy to do it, but it's instant death. It looks cool. So Ragna's combos are essentially healing himself with the Azure Grimoire to absorb life, and doing kind of long-reaching ground-to-air combos. I kind of think he's unfair because he's really strong and really fast, but he's probably one of the best characters. He's also the protagonist. Rachel Alucard essentially she uses her familiars. The red bat thing is called Gi, and the giant black one as the umbrella is Nago. She throws Gi as a lobelia, makes a staff, charges lightning with it, and she can control wind with her Sylphie drive. Every character has a drive that basically allows them to do something extraordinary. Rachel's is particularly annoying because it can control projectiles and your opponent's movement and open up very punishing combos. It's also pretty funny to listen to her insult people. She's not, like, unfair, but she's very difficult to get out of and can kill you from the other end of the ring. Now, the person people complain about the most is a character called Mew, or V13, however you want to say it, which is this person. She's basically the last boss, and she only really has drives that stab you from the other end of the ring, which make up some combos. Now, I'd like to say that everyone says she's really unfair, but she's really strong, but has horrible defense, and with really aggressive people like Bang Shishigami, Iron Tiger, and Jin Kisaragi, which I'll go on about later, I'll explain how they can actually get around her attacks. But I'm just kind of tired of everyone talking about how cheap she is. She does have very annoying combos, but I'm going to explain why I think some other people are a bit more unfair. Please let me know if you have any objections to what I'm saying, but just hear me out first, okay? Let's see. That's 3 characters I've covered. The next one would be Taokaka, some kind of a half-cat person. She's pretty funny. She's kind of like the comic relief of the game. Extremely fast. Her drive is a dancing edge, and she'll basically fly around the field beating the crap out of you. I've tried seeing her combos on the advanced bonus disc, but you could look online. I even have a playlist for the help on each character if you guys want to see it if you have this game. It's pretty hard to find, though. And good luck getting the limited edition. But her drives basically confuse the opponents and let her jump around the field, so she's very fast and very hard to predict, but as a consequence, she doesn't do very much damage. Although her combos are so long and so difficult to get out of, that's normally inconsequential if you know how to use her. Her combos are very difficult to pull off, but if you can work her, she's devastating. Another very interesting character, which I'm going to talk about now, is called Noel Vermillion, who's also one of the main characters. Here's a couple various pictures of her. She reminds me of Bridget from the Guilty Gear series, if anyone's familiar with that. Basically, she uses 2 guns, and her drive is actually a combo called the Chain Revolver. Her basic fighting style is like anti-air or ground-to-air combos. And she can do very, very easily started, very difficult to stop combos. She's pretty strong. Doesn't have a lot of stuff she can do for recovery, except, her distortion drives are very, very effective as a counter. She's one of the most flexible characters in the game. And I don't really understand how, but people in the game confuse her for being a boy, but man, I don't really get it. Well, when she's dressed like that, I can kind of see it. And she has a pretty interesting past. She's actually very closely connected to the one called New, but I don't want to spoil much of the game's mechanics. But essentially, she's kind of like close to long range. She's basically like New that can actually do combos up close, but her long range attacks are slow and pretty predictable. But they are still useful in their own way. And this person, Bang Shishigami, as I've mentioned in one of my test videos, is actually Shintaro's favorite character in this game. Think of him as a juggernaut. This man is ridiculous. Essentially, his drive is a counterattack that allows him to go through anything, even most people's finishers, and teleport and punch them in the face. If you do it 4 times, you unlock his super ultimate finisher called Furenkazan, which you really don't want to deal with because it makes him very fast, 20% stronger, but he can't block. But he normally will not need to. Basically, Bang's thing is that he will get up in people's face, go through their attacks, and there's very little you can do about it. Mew can actually stop his counterattack, but only if you're really paying attention. He can very easily disrupt very many combos, and he's pretty quick. He also has these nails, which you get 12 of them, and you can kind of use them throughout the fight. You can either use them to increase his speed, or as a weapon to throw at your opponent. His astral finish is pretty funny too, because it like stabs a nail into you. And, oh yeah, his distortion drive is also one of the most ridiculous I've ever seen. It makes him invincible and he runs through, like, all attacks. He has a crush on the person called Litchi, who's interested in that black thing called Arakune, which I'm really about to talk about. The black crazy thing with the mask is called Arakune. He was basically a scientist that went beyond the door to that astral realm, or the Azure realm, and got corrupted by the knowledge and power, which warped his body. This person is extremely unpredictable. He'll curse his opponent, which allows these bugs to come out of nowhere and hit them from anywhere on the screen. And he can teleport and fly. Just think of him as like the aerial fighter. If you know how to use him, you can basically evade attacks, curse your opponent, and then lock them into a corner and kill them. And it's very difficult to get out of his special attacks. I think he's one of the cheapest. The story mode is incredible in this game. I mean, really interactive, it has a lot of background, just what I want to see in a story mode. Here's Litchi fay-ling. Now, essentially that rod of hers is her drive, and she can place the rod initially by hitting the drive once. After that, you can do several different things to make the rod come back to her and hit the opponent. It's very annoying because if it's timed correctly, you can actually make an infinite combo that just beats people until they die. Well, actually, the damage mitigates it after a certain number of hits to where it won't kill them, but it's still annoying. Iron Tiger, oh my god, he can kill almost anyone in the game. He is like a nightmare for New. He's very, very slow, can't run, has one jump, no air dash, but essentially he magnetizes people and pulls them toward him. And all of his moves are devastating, and surprisingly fast. His sledgehammer attack, which is one of his specials, cancels out any projectile, anyone. And he has 3 different special grab techniques, all of which take up 25% to more than half your health. Jin is my personal favorite. He's actually Ragna's younger brother, and he's pretty mentally unstable. His drive is frostbite, and it allows him to freeze people over and trap them and make it so they can't move for further combos. A lot of people actually have said he's pretty cheap, because a lot of his techniques allow him to go anti-air and turn invincible and knock enemies all the way across the ring or freeze them. Basically, he's one of the best characters, in my opinion, next to, like, Ragna, because he's extremely fast, very strong, and very hard to hit. Carl Clover is kind of the interesting person in this game. His drive is controlling that giant doll behind him called Nirvana, and that allows him to basically make you fight 2 people at once. The Nirvana is, of course, very limited. It can't fight all the time, and if it gets hit, it can be interrupted. If Carl's hit, it's interrupted. And to me, Carl's like the hardest person to really use. I wouldn't really try using him until you've gotten pretty proficient at the game already. Some people are pretty good with him, but I would recommend Ragna or Jin for your first time. Now, one of my other favorites is Hakumen. Now, there's a lot of interesting stuff about this guy, but basically, his drive is just a counterattack that can stop a finisher. It's very, very difficult to deal with him. And, let's see, computer's freezing up a little bit. Just a sec. Oh, dang it. Anyway, hate it when that happens. But yeah, basically he has really long attack range, and he can cancel out most projectiles really strong. I could probably do some more information on this game, but basically it's really fun. If you like Guilty Gear, but sorry about that. Really fun game. You should pick it up if you can find it. It's basically Guilty Gear, but slowed down so more people can play it. This has been Beanie, and I hope you found this helpful. I would really recommend getting this game if you like